Morning. It is Tuesday, June 4th. So off to do errands and getting in the car, driving the 7 hours to Florida. Hopefully we find a casino where we can play a little 1-3, 1-2, 2-5, who knows. And I will see you guys from the road. Let's do this. Made it to Montgomery, Alabama. Only 3 hours left. Grace, how many times on this trip have you wanted to kill me so far?
How long has we've been driving for what, 4 hours?
4 hours.
130?
I'm no mathematician, but that seems like quite a few times per hour. Beautiful, sunny Florida. All right, championship game, currently 1-1 in the best of 3. Me, Grace, and Stacy versus Al, Chris, and Deb. Game on. Hammer. Let's do it. Jumping in the car here, headed to Ebro Casino, about 15 miles north of Panama City, which is where we are staying. They actually don't allow you to have your phone in your hand or face up while you have a hand, so I will not be able to film anything, but I will be relaying hands tomorrow, hopefully from the town where they filmed The Truman Show, but the weather might not cooperate, so we'll see. Good luck us. The first hand I want to go over, and I gotta tell you, there was no filming allowed there. I do have a little bit of action when other players were in pots, but they make you play with their, they don't allow cameras and phones or anything at the tables there, so a little bit hard to record, as in impossible, which is no problem. You just follow the house rules while you're at a casino, right? That's what we do. And I'll just go over these hand breakdowns in person with you right here. We'll just talk about them a little bit. So the first hand I want to talk about, I started the game playing a 1-2 game, which is a $400 max buy-in at this casino. First hand off the deck, I had just sat down, and you can see this on my Instagram page, Adam Rude to Go. I'm dealt 2 red 5s. So the under the gun player limps, the under the gun +1 limps, and the cutoff limps. Gets to me on the button. I said I have those 2 red 5s. I pump it up to $15. Not super worried about taking the pot down right here. I don't mind building a pot, getting myself something to work with, something to win. And we get the big blind to fold, the under the gun player to call, the under the gun +1 player to call, and then the cutoff somehow, closing the action, decides to throw his cards into the muck. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, and it comes 3, 5, 6, and 2 of those cards are spades. I bet out half the pot, $25, and they both call me. This is after they, of course, checked me. The turn is the 4 of spades. Putting now a 4-liner to a straight and a 3-card flush out there. I, of course, do not have a spade, as the 5 of spades is on the board. The under the gun player now fires out $100, and the under the gun +1 folds. It's on me. I know this player. He will pay me off if I call his bet and hit my set. I do know this. So his most likely holding is a straight. He most likely has a straight, and he's trying to protect himself against a flush draw that I might have. I look at my stack. I have 360 total. It's 100 for me to call. I already know he's going to pay me off if I hit my hand, so I can actually throw his entire stack into the pot when I'm figuring out these pot odds. So instead of saying it's $100 to win $225 in this case, it's actually going to be $100 to win much closer to $500, since I can throw his money out there anyway. So I go ahead and I make the call with these implied odds, and the river comes the beautiful ace of spades. So I completely miss my full house. He checks to me, and I have a question now. Do I want to turn my 3 5s into a bluff? I decide not to do this. When he checks to me, it's fairly obvious to me that he probably just has a straight. However, this guy is a little bit call happy. He's waiting for the bigger game to open up. I don't know that I could get him off his hand for my remaining 260. I end up checking behind him, and he has exactly what I thought he had. He had 7-9 with the 9 of spades, so he's going to make a flush here on the river to beat me out of a couple $100, the first hand off the deck. Awesome. Later on in the night, I get moved over to the 1-3 game, which is their big game. It's a $2,000 max buy-in. They don't really run 2-5 or 5-10. They don't feel like they need to with this big buy-in 1-3 game. So in this hand, we have a $6 button straddle, the small blind, the big blind, and a middle position player all limp in. I look down at 2 kings in the hijack, decide to pump it up to $30. The button makes the call, the small blind calls, the big blind folds, and the middle position player calls. We're going 4 ways to a flop, about $1.20 in there. I have 2 kings, and the flop comes 7, 6, 3, all diamonds. I do not have a diamond. The action is checked to me. It's hard to make a flush in this game, so I go ahead and decide I'm going to fire out, protect my hand. Try to get some value from players who have hands like ace-queen with a diamond, ace-jack with a diamond. I would imagine ace-king would have put in a re-raise pre-flop, so maybe we can toss that hand out. Maybe a hand like ace-10 with a diamond. You never know who might stick around. I throw out a bet of 60. Only the button, who was the straddler, calls. He has a much wider range if he had any 2 cards to start and had a discount to come into the pot. The turn card, now that we're heads up, there's about 240 in the pot, is a 3 of clubs. Pairs the board. I feel that's a very good card for me. I can now beat hands like 7-6 that tried to slow play. I bet half the pot, $120, and he makes the quick call. This is a guy who I have pegged as a nit, and he's an older gentleman, so it's looking more and more likely to me that he has a hand like ace queen with the ace of diamonds. That's kind of where I'm putting him. A hand very similar to that. The river card is the 9 of clubs, the final board. 7-6-3, diamond, diamond, diamond. Turn 3 of clubs, river 9 of clubs. I check it over to him. Just trying to keep the pot small, not wanting to get raised. And I'm in check call mode. When he fires out $125, this does not alarm me. It is a small bet. I no longer think he has the ace queen. I don't think he's bluffing anymore. Now I think he's betting a hand like tens or jacks, possibly queens. Although queens, you would think he would re-raise pre-flop. But again, I pegged him as a nit. I go ahead and I make the call. And he has 2 aces with no diamond. So we are off to a phenomenal start here at the Ebro racetrack. I actually feel sort of fortunate that the gentleman decided to play his hand so slow. Probably would have gotten in a lot of money there had we gotten into a little bit of a raising war pre-flop. Aces versus kings, only lose a couple $100. That's a win. Give you an idea of just how my night was going. We're four-handed. There's a straddle on the button from a guy who was real fun, and he raises it up. I raise it up, I'm sorry. It was real fun. I raise it up to $20 with ace-7 of diamonds. He goes all in for $87. I call. He wins with 4-3 offsuit. Sweet. Now this hand is interesting because it goes to show what a moron I am. There's a $6 straddle on the button. The big blind and the small blind both fold. Under the gun calls. Under the gun +1 calls. I am in the cutoff and I bump it up to $30 with the ace-jack offsuit. A tight player, female player, works at Chick-fil-A, very nice girl. Makes the call. She's the one that straddled on the button. She makes the call of $30. And we see a flop 3 ways after the under the gun +1 player calls. The flop is Jack 6-7, and the action checks to me. Now the hand right before this is a hand that I'm not going to discuss, where I had ace king and had raised pre-flop, missed the flop, multi-way pot, had to let it go on the flop. And that is the hand that I actually thought I had right now. So when I check it over to her and she fires out a bet of $25, I actually go back to my hand after the middle position or the under the gun +1 player folds. I actually just go look at my hand, make sure I do have ace king before I toss it in the muck, just to find out that I have ace jack, which is now going to be super weird because now I'm kind of like slow playing top pair top kicker, which is not something that I would recommend or ever do. I just go ahead and I make the call. The turn card is a 4 of clubs, putting a backdoor flush draw now on the board. I check again to her, and she fires out a bet of $60, which I make that call. Turn card is an ace of diamonds, which is a good card for me, gives me top 2 pair. I decide to fire out a bet of $125, and she calls with 2 pair that she turned. So 6-4 or 7-4 is what she's claiming to have, which is fine and dandy like sour candy, except for that pot is going to be pushed my way. What to learn from this hand: make sure you know what cards you have. It's very easy. The dealer gives you 2 cards, you look at them and you remember them. That's all you got to do. I failed. And the last interesting hand that I want to talk about is this hand here against a very nice guy. I think he's a local player here. Came into the game kind of late, was down to his last $200 when he makes a $6 straddle. We have a limper from the small blind. I raise it to $25 with the ace king of clubs. The straddler calls and the limper calls. We see a flop of 4-3-3 with 1 club. I lead in for $30, and now the straddler raises to $80, leaving himself with around $100 left. After the other player folds, it's back to me. This dude's raising half of his stack, so he's probably not folding, but there's no way that he's actually strong here. This player was a gambling type. He's going to have a lot of hands like ace, deuce, ace 5, 5, 6. A ton of those hands are in his range. Sure, he could have a 4. I doubt he has a 3. Since I'm kind of an aggressive player and he knows that, he's probably going to just call with a 3 and try to get it in on the turn. I think he has enough hands here that he'd be willing to gamble for his stack, that I think a raise is in order. I do decide to put in the $200 total. I just go all in. And he snaps it off, which made me think, oh great, he has a 3. The turn card was the 9 of clubs. I now have a flush draw to go along with my 2 over cards to his, I guess, to the board, because we don't know what his hand is yet. And the turn card was a 6 of spades, and he turns over 4, 9 off suit, which puts me in a sour mood, and I decide to quit the game shortly thereafter. Ending a 3-day trip. Not a poker trip. It was a family vacation, but we found a poker room with some pretty good action. And let's see, first day lost a little bit. Day 2 lost a lot of bit. And then today won a little bit. So overall, financially not the best poker stop, but tomorrow headed to Cherokee in North Carolina, where action should be pretty tight. So if you guys like what you see in these vlogs, and if you got to this point, I feel like you probably did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, get notifications. That helps the channel a ton. And I will see you guys in about a week. Peace.